Yo, what is up, folks? Here today, we got a real special one here. I'm going to turn this one down for you. I want to talk to you about 3 ways that you can shake shit up and break typical patterns in your communication with other people. Whether you're a leader or you're just out for a coffee, this stuff works. This is the best way to get attention and not be a total fucking ding dong. Okay. So there's 3 ways typically that we can go about creating new connections. And those are meeting people, greeting people, and leaving people. And we'll get to how we can pattern disrupt at each one of those levels in a minute here. The first one is when we meet somebody. And what I just did is a great example. You walked into this video, boom, we hit you with some music. That is a pattern disruption. Most people wouldn't expect, oh, hey, this little walk-up song. That's the first thing that we can do when we're meeting people. Even before then, though, when you set the tone, most people, especially if you're out for business, they'll go about their day doing random meetings. Like just sit down, same old, boring. Maybe you go out for a coffee and it's at 9 o'clock and you're there and you're 5 minutes late and nobody says anything, but it's the standard. That's bullshit in my books. I learned this really, really cool skill of pattern disrupting with time in meetings, and I've integrated it ever since. And this is way back in 2017, 2018. I was working for a company called InLive here in town. In Calgary, and they had this meeting at 11:07, and it was a full team meeting at 11:07. And I couldn't help but think, like, what the hell happens if you show up at 11:08? Like, do the gates of hell drop and nobody or anybody that's late is like plunged into oblivion? I didn't know. So I was there at 11 o'clock, and I started to understand what that did is that because we're so used to the o'clocks, the 15s, the 30s, we give ourselves permission to miss that time. We're always like, I'm just 5 minutes late. Well, what I saw in my training sessions as a coach when I was working for the company is that people would show up 5-10 minutes late, and then they'd spend another 5-10 minutes complaining or apologizing about being late. So we've wasted 20 minutes of the 45-minute session. So as soon as I started introducing 11:07, people would show up at 11:05 or 9:05 if it was a 9:07, and they'd be like, "Oh, yo, sorry, I'm late." I'm like, "What are you talking about? You got 2 minutes." Right? And what that did is it got people to drop into the session a lot quicker, and it pattern disrupted. And sooner or later, I tell you, I could count on one hand how many people have missed a 9:07. So that's the first one in how you meet. And I'd recommend doing it in setting your meeting times a little differently. Be a little off the wall. Also, you could do a walk and talk. You could meet and do a virtual thing with a phone and walk outside and make your client or you make your prospect to do the same thing. That's part of the deal. Okay, that's number 1. That's in meeting. Now, number 2, when you greet somebody, most people are like, "Morning, Frank." Well, first of all, what the fuck are you mourning about? What is there to mourn about? Like, listen to the words. Mourning? When I mourn, I think funeral. Like, I'm not mourning. It's not the morning time. Look into that. We'll do another video on the power of words and etymology of mourning. Grand rising. What's up? Hello. Guten Tag. Be weird. Start your greetings a little differently. You're going to stand out. I promise that. Okay. Another way that you can change up your greeting is when somebody says, "Hello, how are you?" That's boring as shit. I want to know a finite thing. Like, what's been the highlight of your day? I stop the train on the tracks when I do that. When I'm calling like customer service or something, I'll call and then I'll just stop. Like, "Hey, how can I help you?" I'm like, "No, how are you? What's been the highlight of your day?" That's really interesting. What did you learn from that? What's been the biggest takeaway? What was the highlight of your week? It stops people when they hear these questions. They actually have to stop, pause, and think. And especially in the service industry where they're getting bombarded with assholes, you can be the person that comes in and changes that day. That creates a connection. That connection converts. Again, we're full of amazing people in this world. Who knows what that other person, just because they're serving you coffee, doesn't mean that they have some sort of crazy, it means that it doesn't mean that they don't have some sort of crazy magic about them. Okay, so keep that in mind. When you're greeting people, if they say, "Hey, how are you?" you come back with, "Fantastic, thank you so much. What's been the highlight of your day?" They will stop. They'll be like, "Whoa." Oftentimes, people are like, this 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 has been the highlight. That makes my day. When I can make somebody's day, I don't know if I should feel bad about that though, because like, wow, that's how shitty people treat other people. They just pass by and not paying attention. So, greeting, pattern disruption, that greeting. Okay. Number 3, on the leave. So when you leave, I would argue, and this comes straight from Chris Voss, your lasting impression is actually more important than your first impression. And here's why. When you leave, that person is going to remember how that sign off was. So one of my favorite ways of leaving a really good feeling is closing the conversation with asking about takeaways. Like, what did you learn from this? What did you get from this? And this is more geared towards like the coaching world. However, when you do this in regular conversation, when you leave just the conversation, people will say, "Have a good day." Well, that sounds really good. It's also very passive. Have implies that the world is got control over you. You can actually make it more of a affirmative thing, and you can take more agency in that, and you can say, "Make it a good day," and people will stop. What does that mean? How do I make it a good day? That implies you got to take ownership of your life. How cool is that? Okay. So again, when you're meeting people, when you're greeting people, when you're leaving people, you can make a difference. You can be a pattern disruptor. And when you do that, you're going to stand out without being a ding dong. That's it for today, folks. Y'all stay sweet. Peace.